What I do is inconsequential. Why I do what I do is I get to shorten people's journeys every day. What I love about our hospitality industry is that it's our mission to make people feel cared for while on their journeys. Together, we'll explore what hospitality means in the built environment, in business, and in our daily lives. I'm Dan Ryan, and this is Defining Hospitality. This podcast is sponsored by Berman Falk Hospitality Group, a design-driven furniture manufacturer who specializes in custom case goods and seating for hotel guest rooms. Today's guest is aware of many hats, from entrepreneur to consultant to creative innovator. He's a content creator for both Toast and Entrepreneur Media, specializing in advertising, media, strategy, branding, and more. He is the podcast host of Restaurant Influencers and Digital Hospitality and founder of Cali BBQ Media, which helps hospitality brands tell better stories online. He's the owner of Cali BBQ, which are award-winning restaurants in the San Diego area. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Shawn Walchef. Thank you, Shawn. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Dan. Excited for today's show.
I am too. And one of the things that I was most intrigued about speaking to you about is you've created these amazing taco places, which, full disclosure, I have not eaten at yet, but I'm in San Diego usually once a year. So I definitely will go on my next trip, but I've heard great things. But not only are you doing these great, this great and amazing barbecue, but you've also created like a media empire, if you will. And what came first? The drive to create media platform or great barbecue? Or did it all kind of happen at the same time?
Well, it definitely didn't happen at the same time. We like to say that we make our media like we make our barbecue, and that's low and slow. So the craft of making barbecue is painstaking, of making a lot of mistakes and learning how to properly cook barbecue, especially in San Diego on the West Coast. And media is the same way. It took us a long time to learn how to start a podcast, launch our own show, launch multiple shows, start to do shows for different brands. And, now here we are 17 years later, and I feel like we're kind of just getting started.
Okay. And I want to dig into a bunch of those things. But before we get into that, hospitality is the thread that weaves these two things together in your life. Oh, three things: your life, your media platform, and your barbecue, award-winning barbecue restaurants. What does hospitality mean to you? And what was the driving, how did hospitality push you into doing these really awesome and creative things?
Hospitality is kindness to a stranger. It's turning a stranger into a friend. When you get down to the core of what makes you and me and everyone that has hospitality in their DNA, is that we're curious people. We're curious people, and we're caretakers. We want to learn about people. We want to see what what they've learned, hear what they've learned about, help them in wherever they've been. I mean, obviously the Canterbury Tales was one of the first, books that I remember reading about the all walks of life, stopping in at the village. And when you think of, it doesn't matter if you're in a big city, if you're in a small city, no matter where you are on earth, we want to be welcomed, and there's a fear when you don't know, when you go into the unknown, when you go to a new place, you have a fear of being welcomed. And I think the beauty of the hospitality business is our job is to welcome people every single day, people that have been coming for years, for generations, people that are new. And that is the craft, that is the skill. And the better that we get at that craft, the deeper the connections we make, both at our restaurants in real life, in our community, but also online. I mean, that's why we love media, storytelling, and technology, because we have the ability, you and I, to create a podcast and put it on YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And that doesn't mean that millions of people are going to listen. But what if one person listens to this? And what if one person goes, wow, that's really cool, I would love to do that, or I'd love to learn more? Or even better, when I first started podcasting in 2017, I remember people going, why would you own barbecue restaurants? Why are you podcasting? It's not like you're going to get a bunch of people coming in to buy barbecue. The irony is, the deepest connections that I have, they will fly whenever they're in San Diego. The first place that they go is to our restaurant in Spring Valley because of the podcast.
That's I don't know. I've heard I've been listening to podcasts, I think, since the podcast started, and I think I'm coming up on 4. I know, not I think, I know I'm coming up on 4 years. Um, but I've been a hardcore listener and fan of podcasts for so long. And what I love about it, and I love what you scratched out right there, is I've been reading in the media or hearing in the media that, this is the year of the podcast. Like in the election this year, like
Of course.
the people who did well submitted themselves to these like long form, kind of have a beer with them conversations. And I think the podcast has been around, like, I think the year of the podcast was well before this and will continue well after, but it's so tailored to, I think that I think everyone should have a podcast, because even if 5 people listen, it's not like they're listening because they want to. They're listening because, and it's so easy to build an audience where you can impact and inspire and have people think differently about the journey that they're on. And to me, it's so easy to, well, nothing is easy, but like it is really easy in effect to start up a podcast, and you don't need like fancy microphones or really crazy software or a studio or whatever. You really can just do it with your iPhone. And it's like, and I don't think we've really figured this out, but even if you look at, I have so many friends up in Hollywood, and I've heard Hollywood referenced recently as it's Detroit, just with nicer weather, right? And just because of film and TV, everything is being produced vertically on this, and we can be in everyone's pockets instantaneously. And I don't know, it's an amazing platform. So you started in 2017, which is pretty early. Like, what prompted you? Like, what was that synthesis to start, and how did you do it? What was your kit, so to speak?
So, I mean, I think, it's always important for me to go back to my grandfather. My grandfather, he raised me. I never met my father. He was a Bulgarian farm boy that read every single book in the village. He was able to leave his village, even though he was destined to be a farm boy.
Did you say Bulgarian?
Bulgarian, yes.
Can I tell you something really funny? I'm sorry to
No, you interrupt. This is a conversation.
Okay, one of my guests, Rado, he works at Marriott in DC. He is Bulgarian, and at one point I was looking at the ranking things. I was #1 in Bulgaria after the podcast went, and I was joking with him. It's because like his mom listened to the
It's
podcast.
fantastic.
But that's the other thing about these podcasts.
Yeah.
It's a global reach. It's amazing.
Yep.
And then on your grandfather part, I'm sorry to interrupt, but this just happened this morning. My daughter came home. She's studying the Cold War. Right. So she's on YouTube and she's got her books. I think she does a test later today. And I just went in. I was like, you know what my YouTube was? I grew up with my great grandmother, her boyfriend, my grandmother, and my mom and dad. And if I ever was doing a report on the 20th century, I would just go into the garage and walk upstairs, and I'd ask them, hey, what was this whole Great Depression thing about?
Yep.
And then they'd have all these incredible stories. But it was just such a great way to learn. And it's cool that you were raised by your grandfather, because most people in the United States anyway, we all miss that multi-generational aspect. And I think I really appreciate having grown up in that household despite its insanity. But there is this, I think, connection to the past that is really missing and can be so impactful. And it was for me, and I'm so happy I did that. But thank you for triggering these two memories. But carry on with your grandfather.
The roots are important and tradition's important. My grandfather, he taught me to stay curious, to get involved, and to ask for help. He was the most curious man I've ever met. He, like I said, he eventually became a medical doctor. He became a real estate developer, never stopped working, never stopped learning. But I remember growing up, he would always ask me, Shawn, are you sitting in front of the class? And I was like, no, Grandpa, I'm hanging out with my friends. My friends are in the back of the class. And he kept asking me, as I got older. In middle school, he would ask me, high school, and the answer was always the same. And I never understood why he was so obsessed with me sitting in the front of the class. It had to do with curiosity, and I remember later on in his life when I started helping write his life memoir together, we self-published his book, The Harvest, How a Bulgarian Farm Boy Grew Wealthy in La Jolla, California. And I remember traveling throughout Western Europe all the way to Eastern Europe with him. And I remember sitting on tour buses, and he would always sit in the front. And it wasn't because he couldn't hear or he didn't want to see, was because he wanted to be next to the information.
Yes.
He always wanted to pick up the pamphlet. So we would go to the hotel and he would pick up the pamphlet. I'm like, why are you getting the pamphlet? It's just an advertisement. He's like, you have no idea what kind of magic can be in this city that we're in. He was obsessed with always learning, always asking questions. And he didn't care who it was. It could be the tour guide, it could be the security guard, all walks of life. He didn't discriminate where he would get information. He would always ask all these questions. And for me, that's inspirational. It's inspirational. And it's a true gift that you have as a podcaster, is that we're forced to ask questions. And the better question that we ask, the better answer we get, not only for ourselves, but also for our audience.
So I appreciate that so much. And I know that anytime I ever struggled in school, the first thing I would do is move myself to the front row, because then there's no distraction. And then I'll bring up my other daughter. So we moved to Connecticut very early in the pandemic. I was like, I'm not sticking around in this apartment with my wife, my dog, and 3 children, 4 roommates in a sense, and a dog. So we came out to Connecticut, and then I don't know, a couple of years ago, I was talking to my youngest daughter, and I said, "Do you miss New York?" And she goes, "Yeah, I miss it. You know what I miss the most? I miss how we would be walking places, Dad, and you would just talk to random people on the street." But I feel like everyone does have a story to tell, and it's not like I'm intruding in their space. You can tell when someone is open to a conversation, and I would just have incredible conversations with so many people with so many different walks of life. And I love sitting next to the tour guide or the bus driver, because then I can ask all those other questions that I always want to, but I can't ask when I'm in the back of the bus.
Yeah. I mean, that is, curiosity will lead you to the front of the class. It will make you stay afterwards. It'll make you go to a conference, read a book, listen to a podcast, but then you actually have to do something with it. And that's the get involved part. Is my grandfather, he was always obsessed with trying things out. He had no problem with failing. He had no problem with trying something new, learning something new. I mean, he was a medical doctor that became a real estate developer when he was 65 years old.
Wow.
65 years old. He was the oldest one in the class, learning about real estate, getting his license, building his empire. And that's something that even to this day, I think about. We can't be afraid of new technology. We can't be afraid of evolving from a restaurant into a media company. Like the things that we're doing now at our restaurant media company are not being done anywhere else. There is no blueprint. There's no one that's, done it before, that's gotten brand deals with Pepsi and Uber and Coca-Cola and all these different companies that we've done work with. I mean, we've worked with Google. I mean, that's crazy. We're going to be published by, Google Small Business. We've done stuff with Walmart for business. The only reason that we've done that is because we're obsessed with trying things, staying curious, but then trying them out. That first podcast that we did, we started in 2017. It wasn't until 2022, 5 years of investing my time, my money, my effort, restaurant money, our resources, until we finally started making our first brand deal, our first sponsorship. I mean, most people quit before they get to 10 episodes of podcasts.
Yeah. Well, that's something that's interesting, is that you read, or I don't know if you read, I read that there's 3.5 million podcasts out there, maybe 3.6 now. I haven't checked in a while, but most of them stop in that 3.5 million number, stop after 10 episodes. So I don't know actually how many there are. But what's interesting is that the people who make the most money doing podcasts, like I'm not doing this for the money. I do it because I really love it, and it's a great way to end the week. And it opens up other opportunities, so I won't discount that. But most people just give up, and even the people like you're probably more successful with your podcast than I am, but like I love doing it so much. It really lights up my week. You hear that the people that really make money are the ones that are in the 0.02% or something. It's like it's very hard to do it. But that's the cool thing. If you're into teaching and learning and impacting, to like teaching, learning, impact, if you were to make a Venn diagram, for me, that's the podcast. And I don't know, I love it. What are your thoughts on like the vast sea of podcasts that are out there, and then developing an audience? Like I love that story of 5 years of just trying, and then finally, you learn who your audience is and you speak to them and you grow. Like, tell me about that.
So we've done lots of shows, thousands of shows. I had a guest on and I was explaining who we are and what we do and why we do it. And he said, "You know what, Shawn? You're really good at starting a flash mob." It's like, "What are you
Oh.
talking about?" That's how you start a community. How do you start a flash mob?
Hmm.
You have to be willing to be the crazy person that hears the music that no one else hears, and you start dancing in the town square. You're the only one. No one's listening, no one's watching, everyone's making fun of you until one other person starts dancing with you. That's your first listener, your first follower, the first person that goes, "Dan, I believe in you. I love what you're doing. Keep doing it." Now two people are dancing. Two people become four people. And all of a sudden, if you keep that consistency and you're willing to do the work and you're willing to speak your truth and you get better at your craft, all of a sudden you've started a movement. And people start to recognize you at trade shows. They start to recognize you when you show up. They start to make introductions. "Hey, you got to meet Dan. He's got a great show. This is what he does. This is also what he does." All of those things, they happen because you have the courage to look stupid and sound stupid in the beginning. Because that's the fear that we have as humans goes back to that number one human fear, which is speaking in public. People would rather be in a coffin than give a eulogy at a funeral.
Yeah.
That is the fact. And now that speaking in public is speaking to the internet. People don't like how they sound on a voicemail, let alone how they sound on a podcast.
I love the idea of the flash mob, because really what you're doing is you're kind of putting out a vibe or a vibration, right? And so there's this wave going through, and other people can catch the wave or not, right? And I keep thinking about, okay, I built this podcast kind of audience community, and then what's next? And to me, I think for what I do, which is furnishing hotels, it's such a niche world, this hospitality design thing, but it's cool. It's really awesome. It's passionate. Most people don't even know it exists, right? And then, so I'm thinking, like, what can I do next? And I'm toying with the idea, and I have been for quite some time, but I just can't quite seem to line everything up. Where imagine 5 or 10 Jeffersonian, like, dinner type things, like, throughout the country or throughout North America, I'd say. It could be global, of past podcast guests. So I could get like a good mix of like maybe owners or designers or branding people or whatever. So like we're all there, and then we have a theme. So it could be navigating change. And I've done some of these before in the pandemic, but to have a chef, to have a private space where everyone can be a little bit vulnerable and learn from each other, right? So it could be courage. Like, when was the time that you had to really dig into your courage to face a difficult situation? And everyone go, and then maybe there's a follow on in 6 months or a year where everyone comes. And I want it to be low hanging, like in the city where the guests are from or really close, because there's so many other things. But I look at this funnel, like we have these trade shows. There are so many people, and I came up with this metaphor of like, it's hard to have any deep, meaningful conversation there. It's like a stone skipping across a pond, and that is what it is. That's what it's for. I get it, but it's like, it's exhausting. But I like these kind of things. Then you go down, you have these leadership things, which are smaller, other learning events outside of the industry. But to go down and be even more niche in my niche world, bringing really cool people together and providing a space where everyone can be a little bit vulnerable and learn from each other. I think that could be really cool, and also build relationships amongst each other. What are your thoughts on that?
I love local. I love So I'm part of the Toast Customer Advisory Board. We switched our restaurants from a legacy point of sale system to a cloud-based point of system called Toast. What Toast does on this customer advisory board is they select owners, about 25 from all over the country, different concepts, different scale, different profitability, and they bring them out once a quarter to Boston. So we go out to their headquarters. This is a very small, intimate, niche group of people that get together with a purpose. So we go and we see new products that Toast is launching, but more importantly, we talk about the things that are top of mind for us, our hopes, our fears, the things that are working, the things that aren't working. And there's a magic that happens in that small, intimate setting. There's this collision of ideas where true friendship happens and true growth happens. And actually, the more vulnerable that each other are with where they are in their business and their personal life, actually, the more that we take away from those gatherings.
Oh yeah, because running a business, like most people that go there, they're like, "Oh, this is so easy. I'm like walking on air. Like all my people are great. They show up on time."
You realize you're not alone. I mean, it's the restaurant business, hospitality business, entrepreneurship. It's hard because you are the one that is on the battlefield every single day, sending out the emails, hoping to get the sale, hoping to get the new client. You're the only one. But until you go and you see someone else that's either same as you or further along or maybe even behind you in the journey, you realize like, oh wow, we're all trying to figure this thing out called sales and marketing and business development.
That's also why I'm a huge proponent of Entrepreneurs Organization or other organizations like YPO, because it's really, in essence, what it is. It's a support group for entrepreneurs. There's no set playbook. There's lots of different systems and processes you can follow to run a business, but you're dealing with all this incoming, but we're all dealing with the same work stuff, personal stuff, family stuff. And to really focus on becoming a well-rounded human and entrepreneur, it really takes that level of vulnerability to share. Because I guarantee you, someone's never been in the exact same position as you, but they've rhymed with you before, and they can share their experience that's not from that exact spot of pain or challenge. But if they get close enough, and when you're in a community that, if you have an issue that you're sharing with a bunch of people, again, that Venn diagram image comes up where everyone is, they share, and this spectrum comes up, and then it's like, no one's telling me what I need to do. I'm hearing from other people's experience, and it's kind of filling in the blanks on that blind spot. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I haven't considered that. Let's try that. And it's like all of these I don't know, elements of iteration. And then I've been saying now recently, because I'm dealing with all this tariff bullshit, but like business is hard enough. And it's like the government doesn't make it any easier by throwing us all of these curveballs, and we'll always overcome them.
Yep.
But it's like, give us some stability, or like let us plan and allocate our capital and resources. And I don't know, it's a really frustrating time with me, but it's also a time when, like that group that you're in, or EO or YPO, it's really critical now that we all get together and share, because especially in this world where we are impacted by tariffs, we just need, it's changing on a daily basis, and we need to be able to share openly and honestly without a mask on. And to me, taking the mask off is the best thing, and you only can do that when you're in like a safe thing and you state, this is confidential, not to be shared from here. Almost like, what is that, like a Chatham House rules or something like that, and some Jeff. So I don't know, I'm a huge fan of it. I have a question on toast.
Yep.
And actually not toast specifically, but POSs and tipping. Okay, so I love tipping. I think hospitality, and many of those interactions, whether it's a bus driver or a shuttle driver or a bellman or a housekeeper, you tip. And I find with housekeepers, it's not just leaving a tip; it's writing a little note like, "Thank you, you made my stay better." Like that really impacts. It's lifting where you stand. It leaves a really good impression. But I do find with these point of sales where, you know, they type it up, then it comes to you, and it's like a coffee shop, and it starts with like a 25 or 22% tip and goes up to 28%. It makes me feel bad, and I feel like they're abusing that getting and giving hospitality, or the owners of the shops are not paying their people enough. I don't know. It's probably a combination of the two. But what are your thoughts on that? And like, does that come up in these Toast or other POS meetings? I'm just really curious about how people are navigating it.
Well, it's certainly from a consumer standpoint, frustrating. And I can share just from my own experiences, it is frustrating depending on the type of service or hospitality that you're provided, to be able to see something that's, I mean, first of all, the scale, right? It's like if you're going and you're getting a sandwich made in front of you at Subway, and you're telling them what to put on it, and then they're asking for a 25% tip, I think that that's a little bit egregious. Does that mean that the sandwich person at Subway doesn't deserve a tip? No, that doesn't mean that. But the preset tips, I think, is an issue. And the service type is an issue. So if you go to a fine dining restaurant, it's obviously a lot different experience than if you're going in and grabbing a slice of pizza from a counter. A lot of it has changed because of the digital tipping environment, to your point. People are getting much more comfortable using technology, using their phone, using Apple Pay. Preset spending limits, I think, has people have fatigue. I mean, we see it on the internet all the time, and people just, there's all different weird places where you would never expect and you've never tipped that people are asking for, 18%, 20%, 22%. And what do we do? I mean, all we can do as business owners is make our decision for ourselves, that we need to make sure, and Toast allows us to put any kind of preset or optional tipping on our guest checks.
So that's interesting. So it's not a preset field from Toast. The owner has say.
The owner has to pay 100%.
So maybe many owners are using that as a way to pay their employees less.
So a lot of them, it all depends on the service type. It all depends on, if it's, where it is and where, but some of it can be pre-templated, but all of it is customizable, at least in Toast.
Well, and on the flip side of that coin, I'm sure, I don't know if you're like me, but I rarely have cash on me anymore. And then when there is the bellman or whatever, and I don't have cash on me, then I'm like, hey, can I have your Apple Pay or whatever? And sometimes they can't give it out. I'm sure there's like tax reasons or something, but there should be an easy way to scan a QR code or something and do that. I do see some technologies coming up in that department. Usually what I say, if I'm staying somewhere, I say, oh, I don't have anything right now. I'll get you on the flip side. And then it's all good. But I always let them know, because I don't want them to resent me, that I'll be back and I'll make it right. Are you seeing any cool tipping technologies just on the out and about kind of play?
We work with a company called Kickfin. Kickfin's an amazing company that helps daily tips. So it actually allows the restaurant, bar, or hotel to tip out daily to their staff. So it's something that less and less restaurants, staff, hospitality businesses, F&B places have cash on hand. So sometimes they have a negative cash balance because of the tip. At the end of the night, you have to pay out the bartender, the servers. This allows a digital tip transaction to go directly to the server's bank account immediately at the end of the night. Yeah.
Huh. Okay. One thing you said early in the conversation, and I don't know exactly how you said it. You said it much more elegantly than I'll regurgitate, but it was time having a role in barbecue.
Yes.
Okay. And a former guest who's also a really good friend of mine, we were just speaking at Penn State University together. We did a nice little road trip out there at their hospitality school. He said a long time ago, because this is Craig Kalatian, he's in New Jersey, but he's an architect, a designer, a restaurateur, a developer. Like, he's an entrepreneur to the nth degree in all things, and he's really awesome. But in his restaurants, his recipes, he says the most important ingredient is time. And I can imagine, like, the best barbecue I've ever had, it's been smoking or slow cooking or whatever for hours, days. How do you take that idea of time and apply it to not only your barbecue, but also your media platforms?
Time is fascinating to me because everything that I want in life as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, I want to be the hare, the rabbit in the race. I want to be the one that's the unicorn business that we scaled so quickly. We grew sales so fast, record-breaking sales, record-breaking new locations. But the more that I do it, the more I realize why it's better to be the tortoise and to show up every single day and do the work and get 1% better and realize that over time, the longer time horizon will always win.
Yeah.
We put all these arbitrary, I need to do this by the end of the year. I need to hit this sales goal by the end of the year. some of it's just so arbitrary to think. And if I go back and I think when I first started our restaurant that I would have 3 restaurants, or that we would be, having a media company that's almost going to surpass our media sales, eventually will surpass next year, hopefully, or maybe it's going to take longer. Will surpass my restaurant sales. That's a crazy thing to think, but I would have never have known that back in 2008. But I put one foot in front of the other, and when we started podcasting, we started our second show. We produced 9 shows internally, our own shows, 9 long form pieces of content every single week.
Wow.
That's not including the other 13 that we do for clients.
But are you on the microphone for all 9 of those?
9 of those, yes.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you have what that tells me is you have an incredible team running your restaurants.
100%. Incredible team running my restaurants and my media company.
And you wouldn't have been able to be on all 9 of those, and now 10, if you count this one, without investing so heavily for so many years, not just in like monetarily in your team, but also just coaching and development and acting as a mentor.
Yeah.
And that's all time.
It's all time. And the interesting thing about time is that we also believe in speed. We believe in speed in the fact that the faster that we do it, the faster we can fail and the faster we can learn. And we feel like speed is such a competitive advantage if done over time. So if you're doing things quickly on a daily basis and you do them for a long enough time horizon, you will get to the thing that you want, which is the quality, the skill, the craft. And whether that's barbecue, whether that's media, whether that's podcasting, whether that's social media, whether that's blogs, websites, whatever you're trying to accomplish, you have to do it with violent speed because everybody waits. Everybody else is analyzing and waiting.
A couple things on that one. So on the waiting, I'll get to the waiting in a second, but on that long time horizon and doing and crafting and like really perfecting it, I think that's where 80 to 90%, I think that's where 85 to 95% of luck comes from, right? Luck does happen as luck. You win the lottery, whatever. But most people who are really lucky, and you look at all these tech bros and everybody else, like they worked hard, they're super smart, they do all this stuff, but they also were born at a time when like all of these that enabled them to jump on this wave of all of these big tech companies and technology just, I don't know, crashing into shore, and they were able to surf them in, right? And I think a lot of that comes from Malcolm Gladwell? And he wrote that where you work for I don't even know what the name of the book is anymore, but it's 10,000 hours to become an expert. Tipping point, yeah. So then, and then in that, actually, I think one of the premises of that book too was that, okay, all these people are, even the Beatles, like, okay, they became experts at their craft by playing in some shitty bar in Germany, but over and over and over. But they were also at a time when like the music industry and radio and like mass media started happening. So they were also just like super lucky at that time too. So, and when people hear the word luck, often I don't want to discount all of the hard work and everything that they did to get there. So there's all these books on scaling a business and grow, 10x this. And, I imploded incredibly in 2019. And I'm so lucky I imploded when I imploded. But I was able to pivot before everyone was pivoting during COVID. And I merged with another company, became a partner in there, and it all worked out great. I'm actually one of the luckiest human beings in the world because of that. And then COVID happened. But again, it wouldn't have happened without 20 years of just grinding and building relationships and all this. But in reading all those books and drinking all this entrepreneurial Kool-Aid, sometime in the pandemic, I read this book. I got to have this guy on the podcast because I talk about him all the time. His name's Bo Burlingham. He wrote this book called Small Giants. And basically, it's the opposite of the scale. And he takes a bunch of case studies. Like, that singer-songwriter, Annie DiFranco, she's in Buffalo. She has a record album there. And they could have scaled and I don't know, built studios everywhere and had distribution everywhere, but she wanted to stay really focused on Buffalo. Um, I don't know. There were like 10. There was some company that only makes tail lights or for high lows for like forklifts, and they just wanted to be the best at that one thing. And I don't know. It's a pretty big book, but it gives all these examples. And I wish that someone had given me the gift of that book early in my entrepreneurial journey to say, like, look, don't scale for the sake of scale. Like, take your time, stew your entrepreneurial, smoke your entrepreneurial like intuition and creativity, but just like keep it small and like have a laboratory there. And like there's a power in being a small giant.
I agree. I think that's a great analogy, and it's something that when you look at modern media, we celebrate the unicorns, we celebrate the IPOs, we celebrate, you know, the people on Forbes magazine and the people on Entrepreneur magazine, but there is magic in 1,000 true fans.
Yeah.
You know, if you have 1,000 true fans, you've got something pretty magical that 99.9% of the world and business leaders don't have.
Okay, so now let's go to the 1,000 true fans in your media platforms. So how many different companies outside of your own do you work with on your platforms?
23.
Okay, so 23 companies. And how do you find them? What like walk us if there's anyone out there that's thinking of starting something, like walk us through the process. Like, okay, they have an idea or maybe they're doing it. Like what's the ideal inbound for you?
I mean, the best thing about doing content and obsessing over omni-channel digital storytelling is that 90% of our business is inbound through a direct message. So someone will listen to a podcast, send me an email, send me a direct message on LinkedIn, send me a message on Instagram based off of some content that we've had. Maybe they've seen it multiple times. Maybe the piece of content spoke to them. You know, we're getting ready to go to the National Restaurant Association show in Chicago. We do a lot of collaboration there. So we work with all different types of brands, from startup companies to publicly traded ones, where we do videos, customer testimonial videos, founder videos, podcasts. We help brands with YouTube channels. We help them launch their own podcast. We help them get on other shows. All of that work stemmed from us believing that every business needs to be their own media business. Modern media is never been easier and never been more difficult to understand. So there's lots of really incredible marketers that work for brands that need help. You know, when you think about the marketing demands on a small business, let's look at one restaurant. They need to have a website. They need to have a Facebook page. They need to have an Instagram account. They need to have a TikTok account. They need to do email marketing. They need to create flyers. They need to update their Google business profile. They need to update their Yelp page. So many different demands. Plus, they've got to do the schedule. Plus, they've got to order the food. Plus, they've got to do inventory. Plus, they got to get to the bank. Plus, they got to fix the broken ice machine.
And pay out their tips.
All of these things happen just for a small independent restaurant.
Yeah.
But the crazy part is that it doesn't matter the size and scope of any business. Every single business needs a LinkedIn page. Every single business needs a YouTube page. Do you know how many businesses have YouTube pages?
Less than 1%. Because it does seem so daunting. But someone once told me a long time ago, this is actually the genesis of me doing the podcast was I was blogging a lot because I went to some conference. They're like, everyone needs to be their own publishing company or media company. So I was like, all right, I'm going to commit to 18 months to writing these blog posts. I like writing. I like research. But it also was like a bit of a slog. And then when the pandemic happened, I was like, you know, I got asked by some people if someone didn't show up, can you interview this person on this organization, Independent Lodging Congress? And I said, yeah, I'll do it. And then I got a lot of really good feedback from a bunch of people, like more than just, oh, that was great, good job. But it was like they took me aside, like, stop, like you got to do something with this. You're just very good with interviewing people. And then this light went off. I was like, oh my God, I could basically just interview people. I love listening to podcasts. And then I can, in essence, plagiarize myself. So I've created this platform. It's not as hard, it's more enjoyable. I'm like, instead of in my own head trying to come up with something, I'm learning from people like you, Shawn. And I don't know, it just was great. But I think a lot of people, that's my long way of saying, if you say every business should have a YouTube channel, they're like, oh my God, that's film crews, that's like scripting and production, and I can barely like make payroll right now because it's slow and blah, blah, and like people don't have time for it. So it's almost like you're an easy button for, okay, so I give you an inbound. I was like, I'm running a business. I'm 95% of my time is fully committed. I don't have time for this, but like I believe in what you're saying. What's the easy button solution here? Like, how do you take my hand and walk me through it?
Yeah, I mean, the easy button solution is we believe to be the show, not the commercial. The problem that most brands have when they thinking about advertising or marketing on the internet is they think about, how do I get a sale? How do I directly attribute what this content, what's the content ROI? And the problem is nobody wants to watch a commercial. I'll tell you a story about my son when
How old is he?
he's 7 now, but when he first had an iPad, we was watching YouTube Kids. He was about 2 or 3 years old, and I remember watching him interact with the YouTube page. Do you know what the first button is that he hit on first digital button he ever learned how to hit?
Play.
Skip.
Oh, oh yeah, because he knows what's talking to him or not.
He didn't want his stories interrupted.
Yeah.
Intuitively, at that age, he realized what the skip button was because they interrupted his story. Humans don't want to be interrupted, but we do want to be told the story. We do want to be educated. We do want to be entertained. So how do we help brands? We help brands by helping them create a show. We create long form content on a weekly basis. Typically that's in the form of a podcast or a YouTube channel. And that becomes the basis of all of their storytelling. We essentially become the chief storytelling officer. We build a funnel for them so that they have a place. They have a weekly show that happens every single week, no matter what. From that weekly show, they'll also get short form content. So that short form content can go on YouTube Shorts. It can go on LinkedIn.
And those are clips from those interviews.
Those are clips
or shows
from those interviews. Correct. Absolutely.
And do you find that the interview is the, like with that owner or entrepreneur that you're bringing the easy button to, do you find that the interview thing is the right solution most of the time? Or sometimes are they just a talking head, just like giving their ideas out there? Just
We do both. We have interview format shows for the curious entrepreneur that is okay with scheduling. Typically, if you're dealing with a founder that has lots of demands, most founders have lots of demands on their schedule. So they have to be obsessed with the podcast medium, the interview medium, so that they're okay. Our team helping them coordinate, because chances are they have to coordinate other high value guests that have high demands on their schedule. So now you're coordinating two people that are very busy to try to get them to book a show, but then not only book the show, they have to stack content so that no matter what, every single week, the episode comes out, which is why we do a lot of monologue style, talking to the camera, one idea, one takeaway, one lesson, something that's searchable that brands are looking for, to help them start to tell stories about their knowledge.
And then one of the things that I have a producer for my podcast, and one of the coolest things that he said to me was, look, if you want to do this, just listen. He said, just commit to doing it for a cadence. And I think this is the most important thing. I can't remember if he said 6 months or 1 year. Just do it weekly for 6 months or 1 year. And that way you'll build the muscle. You'll find the time, like especially if you block the time. And then in my head, when he said that, I said, I know me, I'm going to do it for a year. And I'm going to commit to 18 months and just go and not look at anything and just grind it out. And to me, that was like the greatest gift, to be able to think about blocking my time so that I could build the muscle. What's your best practice on like starting one? Like, do you tell them, okay, I'm not putting in like like a hard sell, like contract thing here. It's not a sales tactic, but to prevent churn for your business. But do you have like a time frame that you suggest for someone who wants to start telling their story?
Yeah, I mean, 100 videos.
100.
100 videos.
Wow.
And the reason why we start with 100 is because we know if you're serious or not.
Oh, wow. That's true. Because there has to be a commitment. Otherwise, there.
If you don't set the bar at 100, then you tell people 10, and then those 10 will take a year to do. But if you say 100, then you start to think differently of like, well, if I get 3 done this week, then I'm much closer to 100.
It's interesting. I'm struggling with this right now. I joined a mastermind to get out, like mess around with TikTok and all this other stuff that I don't
Yep.
even really understand. And I started off well, but I didn't put the hard boundary around maybe I need 100 or 3 a week, or I just need to be more forthright and have a hard landscape without mushy edges to just go. Because I think that the TikTok and that really super short form that's not a clip,
Yep.
I think that also, who knows where it leads as well. And it's pretty easy. Like you just pick up your phone and you just go. What are your thoughts on that one?
100. I think the reason that I say 100 is because it changes your brain to think differently about what you're attempting to do. And back to the 5 years of podcasting every single week, no matter what. Every single week we published a podcast, no matter what. Every Tuesday, 9 a.m. Pacific time, we published a new episode of Digital Hospitality. I held myself to that standard. But it wasn't until we launched a second show where we started to learn the real magic of like how to monetize the show, how to get sponsors. And that's when our massive growth started happening. Once we had 2 shows a week, which we didn't have the bandwidth to do, our team was overstretched. Right now, our team is overstretched again, doing 9 shows a week and doing the other shows. That's 9 shows a week just internally for our own Cali BBQ Media, our channels that we produce, plus the 13 that we do for other clients. But like the only way that we've been able to grow is by expanding our thinking and challenging ourselves, because then it forces you to put the processes and procedures in place to do it.
Agreed. Huh. And then give us an example, not of one of your businesses, one of your restaurants, but someone else's, who they're like, okay, Shawn, I'm going to do 100. I'm signing it. I'm going. And like, give us a success story.
Well, I mean, obviously we're most proud of our Toast relationship because we have 3 shows now that we do with Toast.
Mm-hmm.
Restaurant influencers. We have a YouTube show called Family Style. Plus we do a Rising Tides live call, and we just launched a restaurant technology Substack. But when I think of the clients that we're helping, I'm really excited about Greg Majeski. Greg Majeski has a show, Room for Seconds. We've been producing that show for over a year now. They have 13 different restaurant brands in their portfolio. But he's been very successful on LinkedIn, very successful on Instagram, very successful on TikTok. His show is extremely successful. He's had some incredible guests on his show. Watching that show grow and watching him, I mean, he's successful no matter what, but now he has a media company behind him that allows him to go and pitch other sponsors as his restaurant grows, which is really exciting for me to see.
I think as you think of that, as we were talking about time and also just that idea of small giants and focusing in your little niche and going all in on the niche and just having time work on your side, time and hard work. This movie, you saw Field of Dreams, right?
Of course.
Okay, so that's like one of my favorite movies. And I think if I were to step back and look at my entrepreneurial career, I don't know. I don't think I look at everything transactionally. Obviously, transactions happen. You have to manage them well and deliver well. But like I look at it as filling up the karma pool, right? Doing well by others, introducing others, connecting others, putting others first. So that's like where I really bring hospitality into my hospitality world. But it's really like a field of dreams strategy too, which is also risky. But if you believe in it, it happens. And that's, if you build it, they will come, right? And I think like on this whole podcast thing, when I committed to that year and a half, I was like, well, if I build it, they will come, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot can be said. I need to watch that movie again. I just went to a baseball game yesterday, and I have my love rekindled. So thank you for helping me think about that. I appreciate it.
Can I share something about the Field of Dreams?
Yeah, totally.
I think Kevin Costner's full of shit.
In general or in that movie?
Just in that movie.
Really? Tell me why.
So I used to believe that if you build it, they will come. I no longer believe if you build it, they will come. I believe if you build it, you better tell people and then they will come.
But now I have to rewatch the movie because I feel like he built it. Oh, he didn't really tell anyone, did he?
No.
Well, you know what? It did. Like, people saw what he was doing, and like the farm suppliers and all this, and like his vendors were like, what the hell is he doing? This crazy guy in the middle of Iowa is doing it. And I think word did get around, right?
Yep. And I just believe in the modern world, entrepreneur, the line, if you build it, they will come, is a folklore because of Field of Dreams. And I opened a restaurant in a bad location, and I believed that if I built something magical, people would come, until I realized no one gives a shit until you give them a reason to give a shit.
Well, did you move the location, or did you give them a reason to come?
We just got better at barbecue. We got better at hospitality, and we got better at storytelling.
Interesting. Okay, so then question, let's turn the lens on me. So I've had this platform for coming up on 4 years. It's like a really well-regarded podcast in design and hospitality design. Looking at it and where I've taken it so far, what are your thoughts on what are ideas that I should consider?
I believe that you work with so many different incredible architects, hotels, designers, furniture makers, furniture brands, that if you look at the size and scope of all of those people that are in your landscape, take a look at what they're doing with digital storytelling. Do they have a website? Do they have a YouTube page? Do they have a podcast? Do they have an Instagram account? What are they posting on LinkedIn? I will tell you right now, without having done any research on any of that, that at best 5% of those people are putting out something worthwhile, something that's shareable, something that's noteworthy. 95% need help.
I think it's more. I think it's actually more than that.
So there you go.
Okay, but the more you were about to give the kernel right there.
The kernel is you are the key to that. You are a storyteller. You have understood, you have been doing the work, you have been putting in the reps. You understand distribution, you understand marketing, you understand branding, and you can help them better tell their story and get more customers and create that ecosystem that you're looking for.
My own media platform.
Yes.
And then my Jeffersonian dinners could be a subset of that.
Correct. Yep.
Wow. Okay, so now I'm starting to stress out because now I don't know where to take the first bite.
The first bite is go find your toast. You got to find your toast. I found my toast. Toast didn't pay me for 2 years.
And that's the anchor tenant.
That's the anchor tenant.
Interesting.
That's the logo that gets all the other logos, that gives you the credibility.
Wow.
Who's the furniture company that you love to work with, your dream furniture company?
Well, it's the one I'm a partner with, Berman Falk.
There you go.
And they're my first sponsor, actually.
You need to expand the scope of the relationship, do more.
And that's kind of happening organically too. But I think we need to step out and look at that.
Yep.
Okay. That's awesome. Thank you. But tell me more about Greg and Room for Seconds. And like, if I were to talk to him right now, what would he say the biggest unlock you provided him was?
Plug and play, allowing him to be him and our team to work with his marketing team to unlock all the benefits of having content across all platforms.
And then what does plug and play mean to you?
Plug and play means he hits record and then our team takes it from there and we publish everything. So all he has to do is show up for his interview. He does his interview, and then his show is produced, published, promoted, distributed.
Wow. And then have you, with any of your clients out there, have you taken um like a look at the top line or what, however they measure their new from a sales perspective and then a business perspective. So their revenue on one side and then like new inbounds or new customers, new prospects that become customers.
Yep.
Have you looked at um in general like what the uptick is and how what the lag is from when they start it to how they see like a percentage on revenue or number of new inbounds?
I mean, I wish I had a scientific answer for that, but outside of what I do know is Toast started with one show. Now we do 3 different shows. So we've expanded the scope of our work. That has led to other brands reaching out to launch shows, which has led to them doing more work with us. So from the standpoint of sales, 100%. Content and marketing has to equal sales, but a lot of it is a longer term play, meaning that Toast has the ability to, I can refer somebody to Toast and get paid for that referral, but they know that the deeper play is the amount of work that I do. I mean, how many times have we talked about Toast just on this show? That's beyond the scope of the work that I do for them.
Because you're a raving fan now too.
I believe in what they do. I mean, if there's anybody that runs retail, that runs restaurants, that isn't on Toast, please let me know. I'll find out who's your local rep and get you the best deal you can. But like, I truly believe in it. And I believe that at some point we'll look back at this interview, 5 years from now, and Toast will be in 100 different countries. And Toast will be the Apple for restaurants globally.
Wow. And is that your goal for them or is that something that they've stated?
That's my goal for them.
Oh, wow.
They're a publicly traded company. They can only state so much.
Okay. Oh, wow. That's super cool. Huh.
So,
Wow. This has been really interesting. And I know we're going to keep talking from after this moment. And I appreciate it. I mean, even just in our first conversation, you're like, take the logo off your TikTok thing. I did it.
sweet.
And it was great, but I need to do more TikToks.
So number one, do this.
Mm-hmm.
Take the logo. Now take your own advice. Take the logo. Don't say I need to do more TikToks.
Mm-hmm.
I just need to do more short form video.
Yeah. Well, exactly.
On TikTok, great. Publish it on YouTube Shorts, great. Publish it on Instagram Reels, great. But you just need more talking to the camera, whatever the style is. If TikTok's a platform, then put it on TikTok.
Okay. So here's the other thing. All right. And this is another block for me. I'm like, I'm some old dude. Who the fuck wants to listen to me? And people do listen to me on these podcasts, right? So I get it. But like, it's usually my thinking is, you're more interesting than I am. Like, let's have a talk. I don't like it when my wife is trying to plan my 50th birthday party. And I was like, I don't fucking want one. Like, stop. Like, it's not.
You're going to have one. It's going to be fantastic.
I was like, I don't want one. It's crazy. Like, I don't like it. I don't like the light. And it sounds weird because I have this podcast and platform, but like, I don't like the light shine on me. I like learning from others and doing that. The short form thing, but I've gotten my head around, like, people do like this show. They do listen to it. I get a lot of incredible feedback from it, but the short form part is like, who's going to want to listen to me? And then I'll do something and it'll be thousands of like views or whatever. So I'm like, I guess people do, but like, what the hell? It's just so weird. And I think that goes back to the beginning of our conversation where now that production is in our pocket, you can find your audience anywhere. And there is an audience. And I just know, like, and I didn't even have TikTok on my phone until like a couple months ago. And I just find myself like scrolling through and it's like almost soothing in a way. They've really fucked up my brain in a way, but it's like I'm spending less time watching TV. So I guess like maybe that time I would have allocated to watching TV, which we all need to like recline and recharge, or reading a book or whatever. It's like being reallocated to that. And I feel like that's the big trend. And everyone is going to be flipping through their dopamine hit machine and they're going to see me talking to them. To me, that would like frighten me, but like, I guess other people People like hearing me talk. It's weird. I don't understand it.
You have a unique set of skills. You're like Liam Neeson. Yeah.
This has been super wonderful. If people wanted to learn more about you or Cali BBQ Media or your restaurants, what's the best way for them to figure that out?
You can go to our website, betheshow.media, or you can send me a message on Instagram's usually the fastest, at Shawn P. Walchef, ShawnPWalchef. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on all the platforms. I'm weirdly available. Reach out anytime. I love talking shop.
Awesome. And I just want to give you a heartfelt thank you. I just knew from the first time that we spoke and you gave me that little hint of the logo, ditch it. I just knew that we'd have a special connection.
I really appreciate you having me on. This has been an awesome conversation. You are a master of your craft.
Now you're making me blush. My glasses are going to fog up.
You'll get more Bulgarian listeners after this one gets published. My wife is Bulgarian, and I'm spending 6 weeks in Bulgaria this summer. So
we're going to be huge again.
We have deep Bulgarian roots.
I was in DC last week, maybe, and I texted Rado, but he was on vacation with his son. So I have to call him this week and just say, all right, let's make a big push in Bulgaria. Maybe rather than going to Albania, we need to go to Bulgaria for a vacation. Does the Danube go through Bulgaria? Like, is that where?
It does on the top, but the Black Sea is where you want to go in Bulgaria.
Okay. Well, thank you. And then also, I'd be remiss without thanking all of our listeners and watchers, because without you and your interest and your feedback, we wouldn't be here talking with pretty amazing people like Shawn. So thank you all. And if this changed or impacted your ideas of hospitality, please pass it along. And don't forget to like, subscribe, leave comments. It all helps with our organic distribution. So thank you.